Awesome. It is lights out and away we go. Hello, racers. Welcome to episode 23 of the Harder Soft F1 podcast. Arguably the craziest episode thus far. We'll see. I'm your host, Adrian Huff, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, RJ McCullough. Now, RJ, it has been a eventful week. It has been, Hungary, arguably one of the craziest races we've had thus far in the season. And there, of course, it wouldn't be F1 if it couldn't have topped itself. So let's just jump right into it. You kick us off.
Yeah, hello. You look nice today, Adrian. You got a nice new shirt, new shave, looking good. Yes, welcome to Harder Soft F1 podcast, the number one F1 podcast that's hosted by one person in Toronto and one person in Georgia. So, yes. But yeah, incredible week. I do have to say right off the top, Ferrari, they don't know wheel. So we'll get into that. We have that. We've got some smaller news. We've got Hungary recap. We've got a new segment to debut this week. We've called Podiums. A lot to get into this week. But right off the bat, the silly season has begun. It's crazy. We can't let this go without talking about it because it's just occupying our text today, our F1 group chat that we're in. Just the internet's going crazy today. So we're going to get right into it. A lot of things have happened. We're going to kind of try and cover it all. But right off the start, the first thing that happened, kind of out of nowhere, is we hear Fernando Alonso will not be coming back to Alpine. He has signed a multi-year deal with Aston Martin. And then we kind of found out how it went down. And if Alonso has been trying to get rid of this reputation as the guy that burns bridges, this isn't the way to do it. So Otmar Snapphauser claimed that Alonso basically lied to his face after the race in Hungary. So here's the quote. I'd heard rumors Aston were interested. So once you hear they're interested, there are probably discussions. There were some other indicators and discussions that took place, like walking out of the same motorhome at the same time, all that kind of stuff, which I saw. However, there was nothing. Omar said there was nothing wrong with that. Like, it's just what people do. But then says we were very, very close. We had what I thought was fair contact on both sides, and Fernando did too. The first confirmation I had, again, this is Otmar, the team principal for Alpine. The first confirmation I had that Alonso was leaving was the Aston Martin press release. He says he did ask the question to Alonso in Hungary and was told straight to his face from Alonso, no, I haven't signed anything. He also confirmed that they offered a one-year contract to Alonso with an option for an extra year. And obviously, Alonso didn't want that. So assuming he got a lot of money from Lance Stroll's father and just left Alpine, a better team, to go to a worse team. I don't know. So yeah, that all comes off the back of Sebastian Vettel retiring.
Yes.
So things are getting into motion real quick. But then that becomes a question of, well, who is going to go to Alpine? And there's a name that's been popping up, but that in itself is its own ball of drama. So take it away, Adrian.
God, yeah, you explained that very well. This all started with Sebastian Vettel announcing his retirement, which automatically kind of caused the internet to explode. I mean, he gained like 1 million followers in like 6 hours or something like that. It's unbelievable. And yes, we'll get into Hungary, of course, but like you said, Fernando post race sort of announced that he was going to be joining Aston Martin for a multi-year contract. So we sort of were debating on what were going to be the next steps. And I will say, before I completely jump into it, me and you, we saw this. I don't know if we necessarily predicted it, but we definitely saw something coming. Of course, Oscar Piastri would be the no-brainer choice for the replacement, because obviously Alonso was sort of being treated as a seat warmer for Piastri, which I think did contribute to Alonso deciding to leave. So once the news broke that Fernando Alonso would be joining Aston Martin, of course, everybody started their debates. Oh, it's okay. It's probably inevitable that Alpine announces Piastri. And there was also some debate on like why Fernando did this. And obviously you said Fernando is he burns bridges, and yeah, he chases that cash, which, I mean, good for him. I will say in hindsight, once we go over everything, I will say Fernando Alonso is a fucking badass. Yes, he fucked over Alpine, but that's a multi-million dollar corporation racing team, and they were sort of treating two-time world champion as a seat warmer for a rookie, and of course they were only willing to offer him another year. So everybody was saying, okay, Piastri is in. But then, we were sort of debating like, what if potentially Daniel went back, because what if he had interest in McLaren, because McLaren have not exactly been subtle in their unhappiness of Daniel Ricciardo's performance. So I when it broke and we were talking that Alpine actually tweeted out today around 2 p.m., I believe it was actually around noon Eastern our time, I believe. They tweeted out that Piastri would be joining them for the 2023 season, and that he would be taking Fernando Alonso's place. So yeah, that was it. I mean, of course, we were texting. We were like, "Holy shit, makes sense." But it was a little interesting that Piastri himself did not comment or did not say anything on his social media for 2 hours. Yeah. And 2 hours went by, nothing. And that was when we were sort of talking. And I need to go back through our thread, but I think I might have said something like, what if he decided not to, or something like that. I don't even know, but so 2 hours later, Piastri then tweets. I'm going to pull up the exact tweet right here because, of course, I want to fully articulate his feelings. So at 2 p.m. today, Eastern Time, Oscar Piastri tweeted.
Right at 2.
Yes, right at 2.
Coincidence. That was a scheduled tweet.
Mm-hmm. He tweeted, "I understand that without my agreement, Alpine F1 have put out a press release late this afternoon that I am driving for them next year. This is wrong, and I have not signed a contract with Alpine for 2023. And then he goes on to say, verbatim, "I will not be driving for Alpine next year."
Dagger.
That caught the Formula One subreddit is still on fire. Like, it is unbelievable. And of course, we don't have confirmation of like where he's going to be going, but all fingers are pointing to McLaren. Like it's the only, I feel like genuinely it's the only team that he could potentially go to that he would be willing to completely burn the Alpine bridge.
Yeah, he could go to Williams, but why burn that bridge to go there?
Exactly. Who wants to do that? So there's so much like legal like chatter going on, and it's kind of interesting that McLaren have sort of found themselves in a very similar predicament that they were in a couple of weeks ago in the IndyCar scene when Alex Palou, is that how you pronounce his name?
Palou. Palou.
Yeah, Palou. Whatever the case may be. Yeah, he his team that he was racing on tweeted out that he would be joining them next year, and of course he tweeted out that's not true. I will be with McLaren next year, and that's already caused a lawsuit, litigation, all that jazz. And I'm scrolling through the Alpine Twitter. I think they actually deleted a tweet because they posted, after Oscar had tweeted that, they posted something along the lines of, as far as we know, legally, we are correct. That was pretty much the extent of what they said. So it's unbelievable. I'm just like so shocked that this is happening. And, the Formula One Instagram updated the 2023 drivers graphic, put Alonso's face on the Aston Martin for next year, obviously. They've got Daniel up in the McLaren. So I'm like, that's not even accurate. We don't know because I read that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, someone also photoshopped that and added like 40 different names around Ricciardo's.
Yep. I mean, yeah. At this point, we can sort of expect that Ricciardo will probably not be at McLaren next year because there is a clause in his contract. McLaren can either buy him out, and if that is the case, then Daniel, I think, has to let them know by the end of this month, if I'm not mistaken. It's either the end, it's either September, yeah. And if if that is the case, then they will buy him out of his contract and he will not be racing for them next year, which brings up the question, will Daniel Ricciardo make a return to Renault? So I'll let you talk a little bit because I've been rambling, but like this has just been a complete clusterfuck in the best way possible.
Yeah, it's exactly what we wanted. We said last week that don't fret. Yeah, we have a month off of racing, but this is probably the most exciting month of the whole season in terms of news and like hot stove just talking, which we love. Everyone that loves F1 loves to talk F1. So yeah, we're off to a hot start 1 day in basically. So yeah, just to quickly sum up, because I know it's been a lot of names and contracts, and so yeah, basically Ricciardo's under contract with McLaren until the end of next year. Alpine doesn't necessarily know who they're going to fill the spot with, but Piastri's under contract with them as well. And he doesn't want to race for them. It appears he wants to race for McLaren. So McLaren has Ricciardo under contract. They also signed Pato O'Ward to one of their Indy drivers with the intention that he might get a shot at F1. They have Colton Herta, who they just drove at Portimao a few weeks in an F1 car. They've got Paolo, who they just signed. They've got now Piastri in the mix. Like, there's a lot of guys that are in the mix, or at least have been told that they're in the mix. And to the point where Piastri apparently had a handshake agreement with, what's his face? McLaren's
Zach Brown?
Not even principal anymore. Yeah, Zach Brown. So who knows? Like, it's all over the place. I don't know. Like, I guess let's just take some guesses as to what we think is going to happen, because if you look at, I'll just expand this a bit more. So if you've got the McLaren seat, let's just say that's open. Then you've got the Alpine seat. That's two definite. The Williams, Latifi. Latifi's gone. And then you've got Yuki Tsunoda's seat, Albon's seat, Zhou Guanyu's seat, and Mick Schumacher's seat. So there's going to be a lot of potential moving around. I could see Mick Schumacher moving to a different team. I could see Albon maybe moving up to a different team. Latifi, I think, is gone. Yuki, maybe he gets another chance. Maybe Alpine goes for Gasly because Gasly's French and they could have two Frenchmen on Alpine. You know, like, I think the most likely thing that happened, we both kind of agree, Piastri signs with McLaren. And then what happens to Alpine? Like, Ricciardo to Alpine, Ricciardo retires, Gasly goes to Alpine, and Ricciardo goes to Aston Martin, or sorry, to AlphaTauri. He has the Red Bull ties. What do you think's going to happen?
I have no idea, but I think if I was to guess, it's crazy how just like fucked over Alpine has got just over the last couple of days, literally.
Yeah.
It all started with this could have all started with Esteban defending Fernando a little bit too hard. Let's be real. Fernando got pissed, and maybe that he was like, you know what, fuck this French piece of shit. I'm out of here, bro. No shame against the French. I'm joking. But
it's happening all year. Like,
it has.
You just go at it.
They do. They're very volatile teammates. But at the beginning of the season, yes, we do have the rest of the year. But they were sort of at least on the socials, the vibe they were sort of presenting was like the legend training, not the rookie, but like the young gun. You know, they were like perfect, but it's not perfect at all. The theory about Gasly, I think, is extremely interesting. I think if Gasly ends up on Alpine, then it is like the circle of getting fucked over has just like crossed so many teams by that point, if that does happen. Yeah. But I think if Alpine want to salvage their next season, first of all, like, let's say they're right. Like, if Piastri did only just give Zach Brown like a handshake and Alpine actually have a contract with him, then that would be a really stupid fucking thing for him to tweet and for him to deny. Of course, we don't know the details. My real question is, like, where are all the lawyers? Like, I'm sure every Formula One team has got to have a room full of lawyers at all times. Like, how are they not positive about these things? And the fact that it keeps happening is so funny. But imagine if Piastri is forced to drive on Alpine next year, how fucking awkward and tense that year is going to be, especially between teammates. Somebody posted, it's like, have we ever seen a driver with 22 DNFs in a season. So I don't know if that will necessarily happen because McLaren has obviously shown that they're not afraid to poach drivers. So if I had to guess, I think we're going to have a Norris, Piastri, McLaren lineup, and I think Daniel's going to make a return to Renault. That is, if I could, like,
AKA Alpine.
Exactly, yes. If I could choose, like, what would happen, that's what I would pick because I would love to see Ricciardo back at Alpine. I would absolutely adore that. But at the same time, the Gasly route, obviously Gasly wants to get out of Tauri, so it's a good opportunity. It's potential. I mean, I'm sure we have just as much clue as Alpine does, honestly. So what about you? What are your predictions / wishes for like how this is going to shake out?
I just can't see Piastri tweeting that out unless it was vetted and like he didn't come up with that tweet on his own. Like the fact that it came out exactly at 2 p.m. tells me it's a scheduled tweet. So like that was something his team had been working on. There's a reason he was silent for 2 hours. So I just can't see him going to Alpine. And then, so yeah, him to McLaren makes sense to me. The only thing that doesn't make sense with that to me is like, then you've got two kind of alpha young guns in Lando and Piastri, which could be great. You could be fighting for titles, but it could also end up backfiring. Like, for example, back in the McLaren days with Alonso and Hamilton. Like, if you have two teammates that don't get along, I mean, they didn't win the title that year because they were clashing in 2007, 2008. So, yeah, we'll see, but that'll be great for McLaren. I think it would bump them up in the overall kind of pecking order, but they got to figure out their car, obviously. I feel a little bit bad for Danny Rick because I think if he were going to move to another team, as much as I do want to see him return to Renault, he did kind of leave on bad terms. And like, if you're Alpine right now, Ocon, he's not really showing that he's like a world championship kind of guy. You need a guy. Like, if you're going to lose out on Piastri as well, like, you're going to be pretty pissed about that. Like, I don't know if they're going to replace him with a declining Daniel Ricciardo. Like, what does that really do for them? I could see them maybe going for like a De Vries or something, but he's a Mercedes guy. I don't know how that works. And then Williams is going to have to replace the Latifi, so De Vries there makes more sense to me. So yeah, I don't know, that Alpine spot to me is really Alpine / Renault. That I moved from Renault to Alpine. Yeah, that's the one that's really, really intriguing to me because that could be anything. Like I said, we could even see, they're a French team. We could even see Gasly go in there because he's looking for. It seems like if you're him, you kind of feel stuck in AlphaTauri where you can be the guy on probably the fourth best car this year, behind the obvious top three Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes. Like, Alpine and McLaren are neck and neck for fourth, right? So I don't know. Now I'm rambling, but like, yeah, it's just it's fascinating. I don't know. There's so many different names that it could be. There's so many different things that could happen. It's going to be a great off season to track that. Absolutely.
I was secretly making a TikTok today during work because it was just like I could not get off my phone. When shit like this happens, like I automatically spend a lot of time on Formula One, like subreddit or Twitter, whatever, just reading about Formula One just because I love it so much, obviously. But when shit like this happens, dude, I cannot get enough of it. Like, I was like, God damn it, I wish I could just be at my house right now. Or not at work, so if I just wanted to give my full attention to this shit because it is so fascinating to me. I think Otmar has got to be beyond furious. I think probably the whole team at Alpine is probably just completely completely thrown off. Like, it's got to be the most confusing situation in the world. But another thing is that, like you said, the rest of the season is going to be very interesting. I don't know if Otmar is going to really, because I mean I think it's obvious that he doesn't really love Fernando, so he'll probably start lowering the filters even more. So, yeah, it's insane. I mean, we could even get the possibility that we'll get somebody besides Pierre or Ricciardo at Alpine. I mean, there's so much just uncertainty, and I love it. I think that when this happened with Palo in IndyCar, I was like very fascinated by reading it. But the fact that it's happening at the highest level is just so enjoyable. Like, I love this.
Yeah, and it's interesting that like the clause in Piastri's contract is like, if there's a seat available at Alpine and they offer it to him, he has to take it. But like, I guess if you're Piastri, you can make the argument that like that seat wasn't available until 2 days ago. So like he could make the case that he already was in contract talks with McLaren or something legally.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, Alpine seems to want to stick to the legal stuff, but in this case, it seems like the driver, in the end of the day, is probably going to get the choice. Like, the drivers usually are the ones kind of getting screwed over by the team. So I hope that Piastri doesn't just get like, legally you have to race for this team, because I don't know. I don't really like the way that sits. But
yeah.
Anything else on all this drama, or should we?
It's hard. It's hard not to continue talking about. I do want to flash back to the start of this season and just sort of remember a tweet that Alpine made a while ago. I believe. Oh, yes, it was Alpine. Of course, it was, when they were sort of arguing for Oscar. Basically, you remember that, when they were basically like, "Hey, we're totally willing to lend our driver to another team."
Yeah.
So it's just like,
right. Yeah.
I know. Imagine if they could just, look into the future and realize just how big of a mistake that probably was. Yeah, we can definitely move on soon, but I think you're absolutely right that Piastri probably wouldn't have tweeted that unless it was certain. And from what we know for certain is that Fernando Alonso was offered a 1-year guarantee with the potential for a second year, which I'm sure in Fernando's eyes was, okay, you want me to drive 1 more year so you can replace me, which is probably what they were doing. We don't really know for sure, but obviously if Fernando didn't feel comfortable staying at Alpine, then there was probably a reason. And what to finish off my spiel, I saw a comment on Reddit that said, "This isn't the first time Fernando has cost McLaren millions of dollars." And that is so true.
Very true, yeah. The last one probably cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh my God.
And this one could too. I don't know what the Ricciardo, like, that's the whole thing too, is like Ricciardo still has to either agree to this or just get bought out, and that's probably, like, is that even an option that they can just pay him out like $25 million or whatever, and then he just goes off and gets paid from another team again? I don't know. There's a lot of things, like, it's going to be a lot to track. We're obviously going to keep you posted every week, but absolutely.
The Fernando's, did you see what he posted on his story on Instagram? It's just him with like the beach filter, and he's like giving like a thumbs up, just being like such an asshole, like just being like, "Oh, I enjoy what's going on right now, just so you know."
yeah, because they thought he was in like Greek islands or something.
Yep, and all the Roman Grosjean and like 3 or 4 other IndyCar drivers have been tweeting things like the popcorn emojis and like, "I didn't think it was April 1st." So it's just like the whole community is just focused on this, and yeah, of course we're gonna update you. But yeah, we can move on to our next little topic here.
Yes. Sorry, just 1 second.
No, you're good.
Okay, so just a couple little news items that I want to get to. So first, Lewis Hamilton has bought a stake in the Denver Broncos NFL team. Kind of came out of nowhere. I think he just bought a stake in a soccer team recently as well. So he's expanding the olive branch. Not really much else there. Gives me a second team to root for. I'm a Bills fan. I guess I root for the Broncos as well. The more interesting Hamilton stat that I saw. After this weekend, Lewis Hamilton now has more podiums in 2022 than Charles Leclerc. Isn't that fucked?
I don't even want to respond to that. I'm going to be honest. I mean, for fuck's sake, there's so much going on that we haven't even talked. I mean, you had your little quip at the beginning, but like that shows how crazy that the news is right now that we're not even talking about Ferrari when we should be.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
We are certainly getting there. And then one more just little stat before we do get into Hungary, how that happened. Saw this just before we started. Okay. Now, obviously, this can be a little misleading. Most positions gained during a race in the first half of the season. Who do you think is number one?
Most positions gained. Gosh, I feel like it's not an obvious choice. Most positions gained. It's probably a midfielder. I'm going to go. Can I give a team?
Yeah.
Is it. Fuck, dude. Is it Alpine? No. All right, hit me. Who is it?
So it's Aston Martin, both of their guys. And the leader leads by quite a bit.
Vettel.
Hey, guys.
It's Lance.
Lance Stroll, 47 positions gained. Now, a lot of bad qualifying, but that's pretty good. It goes Lance Stroll, 47. Sebastian Vettel, second place. So both the Aston Martins. They're bad at quality, but they've got good race pace. 47, 35, so 12 more. And then Vettel's tied with Albon, 35. And then it's Russell, 32. Hamilton, 29. Latifi, 27. So
wow.
It's pretty much who's bad at qualifying and does better in the race. But it's like the Mercedes guys are in there, and they've kind of had a bit of that too. But yeah, very interesting. Lance Stroll has 12 more positions gained than anyone else this season. And just a typo on the small news, Aston Martin also brought a very strange rear wing to Hungary this week.
Yeah.
That there was a lot of funny memes and stuff about it online, but it basically was like a 2-layer. So you could like sit on it, and I don't know. They said it was they're going to bring it to a track that have high downforce, and it didn't really work very well in quali. But I mean, during the race, they moved up a ton. So I don't know. It seems like something that if Red Bull, Ferrari, or Mercedes would have brought, the rest of the paddock would have been complaining, saying, "No, you can't do that. You can't do that," and it probably wouldn't have been allowed. But Aston Martin, it's like, man, let's let them try it, see how it goes. Maybe if it works, we'll try it too.
He's like, let me do it. It's fine.
Fine.
Okay.
Anything else on those little small news bits?
Yes. We shit on Lance Stroll quite a bit. But he's a good driver. Obviously, he's a Formula One driver. Is he the best? No. Is he the worst? No. I think if Lance needs to do two things. He needs to start qualifying better. He's like an opposite Bottas. He's just a terrible qualifier, but then when the race starts, he actually does some surprisingly good moves. And second, start checking your mirrors, bro. If he could get those 2 steps down, he could be world champion.
Yeah, one thing we haven't talked about actually, how do you think the dynamic's going to be between Alonso and Stroll? Because I guess he's going to be like mentoring him now, but Alonso's not really much of a mentor. I could see him getting pissed at Lance, because Lance kind of sometimes will do his own thing, especially during races. I don't know. It could go bad.
Oh, it definitely could. It's. I think it might be the weirdest driver pairing for next season.
Yeah.
It's so odd. But I mean, I'm sure Fernando is gonna be, his regular like, hey, happy to be here and race, like that type of shit. Because he knows that Lance's daddy is signing his checks. So I'm sure he's gonna be real buddy with Lance, way more than Esteban.
Yeah, because like you think like Vettel, Seb would have been the perfect guy to mentor, but I don't know. It seems like he kind of took Mick under his wing more than Lance. We don't really see much of anything with Lance ever from anyone, and it doesn't really do social clips or anything. So yeah, a little weird. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask here.
You're good.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much that for like our little news bits. We can move on to actual stuff that happened in real life that's not just new rumors and discussions. So Max won obviously in Hungary, despite a spin out and having to change the power unit before the race, which I don't know, that could be a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing, but like that. And starting from 10th place, Max Verstappen won his 28th race of his career, which is insane that he's already done that. So we'll get to the race in a sec. but he's your guy. So what's my punishment going to be? And then I'll give the updated league standings.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And fun fact, I believe he had never won a race starting lower than fourth place. I think fourth was the lowest or the highest that he'd ever climbed to a race finish, which is insane. But yes, Max won. And last time he won, or pretty much every time he's won, you've just chugged a Red Bull on the show. And of course, when Charles won last time, since he's on my team, I made you do a full-length race at Monaco on F122, which might, I think I can confidently say it's probably the worst punishment that we've had on the show so far. Just complete misery. So,
yeah,
I'm not going to have you chug or drink anything, and I'm not going to have you do a full race, but there is a stipulation. You are going to be driving in the Netherlands. You're going to do a 5-lap race, and you are going to be driving in. You get a few options. You can choose between a Williams, a Haas, an Aston Martin, and I think I'll stop it there. Just those 3 teams, and you have to all you have to do is just do you can do whatever length qualifying you want. Pretty much just the main thing is just that you do the whole weekend as one of those drivers, and you play on, let's say, trying to think. I've been debating what AI level to put it. We'll say 90. And all you have to do is get points. If you do the 5 laps and you don't get points, you got to start the weekend all over again. So it's
5 laps with it.
Yeah, just 5 laps, because I figure with 90 AI, you may have, I don't know. This is sort of like, I just wanted to play around a little bit with like the racing aspect of the punishment. I didn't want to give you a full race. I wanted to make it interesting. Like if you do amazing, you could knock it out in 20 minutes, or it could take you, 3 or 4 tries. So that's your punishment this week. We'll update next week on how that goes. I gotta say, it's pretty wild how many punishments you've done and how ahead you are in our league. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, I have to do a 5-lap race at Zandvoort, but I have to do the entire weekend. So it's practice session for Quali, full Quali, 90 AI, and I get to choose between a driver on the Williams, a Haas, or Aston Martin.
Yes, sir.
So I won't be choosing a Williams. We can knock that right off the bat.
I figured.
I won't be choosing Lance Stroll. So we can take that right off the bat. So it'll be Seb, Mick, or K-Mag ripping around Zandvoort. We'll see how that goes. But
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that brings us to where do I have it? The updated league standings. So going into the Hungarian Grand Prix, I was leading by 28 points. At the Hungary Grand Prix, Verstappen, obviously the winner, 25 points. Lewis took the fastest lap for me. So you have Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, Ocon, and Vettel with points, 25, 8, 6, 2, 1. That's 42 points. I had Hamilton, Sainz, Russell, Perez, and Alonso, 19, 12, 15, 10, 4. So I had 60 points. So I gained another 18 points on you. RJ 704, Adrian 658. RJ leads by 46 points. The gap is increasing, but as you say, I'm the one that's having to do these punishments every week. So we need big second half wins for Mercedes. That's really what I need to get myself back.
Is that what you need? I don't think you need that. I don't think so.
That's what I want.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks to you again for doing the math on that every single week, keeping track. It's very fun. I love watching the race and then on the last 3 or 4 laps, suddenly realizing I only have 2 or 3 drivers in the top 10. So, yeah, that's another reason why I'm so fucking pissed off at Ferrari is because Max and Charles were my dogs, man. They were supposed to carry me to victory, but looking back, why I picked Gasly as my 3rd pick, I will never know. We were young. I was stupid.
It's a different time.
A different time. Next year, though, I'm not counting myself out this year, but I'm just saying it looks bleak. It looks fucking bleak. So, yeah, if I do lose, though, I'm happy to come up to Canada. So,
right. Yeah, it's not really that bad of a punishment. It's more the...
No, not at all.
So yeah, we can get into the race and stuff, but first, Quali was pretty interesting this week on a multitude of levels. So George Russell takes pole on like the very last second. It didn't look like he had no purple sectors. It was all green sectors, which is interesting. He takes pole, and then we're kind of waiting for Lewis to come around. He had a DRS issue, so that in hindsight could probably cost him a win.
Yeah.
If they didn't have that DRS there. So Lewis qualified 7th, and the Red Bulls had a disastrous qualifying, definitely their worst of the year. Perez didn't even make it into Q3. He starts 11th, and then Verstappen had an issue out of the box on Q3, and he finished last in Q3. So 10th and 11th, it looks like going into the weekend, it was Russell and then the 2 Ferraris. So Russell, Sainz, Leclerc. It looked like, wow, like Ferraris is what they need. They're going to get a 1-2. The Red Bull's not going to get much of anything. They're going to keep the constructors alive. Obviously, that's not what happened. We got the same exact podium we got last week. Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell. I mean, Max is on another level, but the way it went down with Ferrari is really the talking point. So I'm just going to go through a few of what happened. So, first of all, they did an extra pit stop.
Again?
Yeah, so head down. Where did I write this?
Again? Why?
Down. Okay, here we go. Why? So, whole race is going pretty normal. Leclerc passes George Russell to take the lead on lap 31. Like, this all happens pretty quick. And I remember texting you because Charles was starting to pull away and saying, no, I really hope Charles doesn't just run away with this. It's the last race, so I hope there's something interesting that happens. Well, unfortunately, it all went to shit. Because lap 40, after the second stint of mediums, they pit the hards after 9 laps. 9 laps after passing Russell, they switch to hards lap 40. Then lap 41, Max passes Charles. Lap 42, Max spins out. And Charles repasses Max. And we're like, okay, Charles is good. He's in the lead. They're just going to go the rest of the race. I don't know if he had a different compound yet, but softs would have been the one to go to, wait it out to the end, and then go with softs. Instead, Max retakes Charles on lap 45. The hard tires the entire race. No one, I know, did a bad job explaining that, but the hard tires, like Pirelli never had any recommendation of anyone going medium, hard. That's what Ferrari tried to do. We had seen it with HOS and Alpine. They just couldn't get the hard tires going. Red Bull, before the race, was going to start on hard tires, but they changed at the last minute, knowing the hard tires weren't going to work. But yet, halfway, 3/4 of the way through the race, Ferrari decides to put the guy that's going to win the race, probably, on hard tires that everyone knows aren't working. And the worst part of it all, to me, obviously he drops the first, he ends up 6th, Carlos ends up 4th. They lose points to Red Bull. But after the race, Charles finally kind of says, like, you know what, I don't understand, like, seems to be something going wrong every race. Like, we need to figure out the strategy. I didn't want to go on a hards. You heard him on the radio saying he didn't want to go on a hards. And, like, the team is just debacle every week. But then the thing that just would drive me insane if I was a Ferrari fan, first of all, is that Binotto, today I think quotes came out that he said, basically there's nothing to change. It was just bad luck. And that they're more worried that the car didn't perform than that they messed up the strategy. And you're never going to improve if you just think that you're not making an issue. Like, props to Red Bull or Mercedes. If they mess it up, they come on the radio right away. Like, sorry, Lewis, sorry, Max, we messed up the strategy there. And then you can move on from it. But that's insane. And then on top of that, in the cooldown room, very rarely are we able to actually pick up what they're saying. But the one moment we picked up was they're looking at the screen, the replay or whatever, as they just did. So Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, they're looking at the screen, see, Max says, Ferrari went to hard. Or maybe Lewis says it, and then they just all start laughing, like, oh, yeah, they went to hard. So, like, yeah, I'm messing up the order of that, but it's just, When you're getting made fun of by the other teams, that's not good.
No.
Yeah. Another blunder. We went black there for a sec.
You're good.
Okay. What do you think of another blunder? It's happening every.
It's happening every week. It's unacceptable, and I have zero faith in Ferrari. I think they've choked away a fight. They're not even choking away like a win. They're not even fighting. They're just letting it happen to them. It's like this sport should be war, but to them it's just it is playtime. You know, it's like it is. That is a complete disaster class. And shout out, I have her name pulled up right here. Shout out to she's not the head strategist, but she is on the pit wall. I think she is the chief strategist, Hannah Schmitz, on Red Bull. She is a rock star. She's been on the team for years, and she made all the calls for Max, which obviously got him the win. An interesting contrast was that the path of the compound path, that Ferrari went with was not on any of Pirelli's forecasted projected compounds, but neither was Red Bull's. So that just goes to show you that you don't necessarily have to follow the recommendations, or like, you just need to know what the fuck you're doing. And Ferrari clearly doesn't know what they're doing. And I think that bothers me the most about the whole team dynamic is that, like you said, you know, regardless of Red Bull's faults or Mercedes' faults, you know, when they fuck up, they own up to it. They take ownership. And Ferrari just seems like they're always trying to pass the blame off. I don't know if it's just because they are just so like gung-ho on like, we have to keep the Ferrari name like perfect. Like Ferrari is the pinnacle of racing, but it's not. It's the embarrassment of racing. And there was an article posted that just showed like tons of Italian newspapers just clowning on Ferrari. Charles doesn't deserve this. What is Ferrari doing? Ferrari blunder, disaster class. It's all been said. And for Binotto to say that nothing needs to be improved, it's embarrassing. It's an embarrassment. And the chief strategy officer for Ferrari has been there over a decade. Like, I'm pretty sure he's been there since post Schumacher.
The issue really came into when like Vettel was there, which is about 10 years ago. So maybe it's him.
Yep.
That guy needs to go.
He needs to go. And if not just him, you know, it needs to, the leadership just needs to be cut. I don't know if I texted this to you. I might have said it in the last podcast. I do not remember. But if Leclerc wants a chance at even fighting for the title with Ferrari, he needs a Schumacher level takeover of the team. And is that even possible? I don't know. I don't think so. It seems very unlikely because when Michael joined Ferrari, he brought so much personnel with him that it was like he brought his own team onto the team. So,
yeah.
And Charles,
on that point though.
Yeah.
No, sorry, just before I forget it,
good.
There was rumors that we talked about a few months ago that when Hamilton almost went to Ferrari, but they wouldn't let him bring over his own people.
Yep.
So there you go. Like, they've already changed that. And then, yeah, Ferrari just has this like idea that they're bigger than anyone else. Like I said earlier, if Red Bull or Mercedes make mistakes, they at least say to their driver, like, hey guys, even if they're wrong, like Toto was saying, like, sorry, Lewis, how you had to drive this tractor. Or like, the sponsors don't want to hear that. Like, the Mercedes people in the garage that are working on the car so hard, they don't want to hear that. But you got to like kind of massage the ego of your driver, because that's really what it boils down to. Whereas Ferrari is just like, no, we're Ferrari, we don't mess up, you mess up. And that's just like clearly so backwards. They've got to evolve from that. And then it reminded me that video I sent you, that old man that's watching the race, and he's just like,
oh,
Ferrari, yeah. This is what they do. They go medium hard, ultra hard, fucking hard, super hard. Fuck you, Ferrari.
That was, dude. We got to put that video in the.
Yeah,
in the
it'll
podcast.
be in right now.
But did you see Verstappen? He started with medium, and he ended with medium. Okay, then Ferrari went medium, hard, soft, medium, super hard, fucking hard, and then they lost. Get the fuck out of here. Screw you, Ferrari, you bunch of idiots.
Wasn't that funny?
What a video.
God, yeah. While a Schumacher level takeover could be like if Leclerc was able to pull it off and was able to whip the team into shape, and maybe not this year, but next year fight for the championship, it could be like one of the greatest. If he does end up winning, it could be like, one of the most like epic championship wins of all time. But I don't know if that's even possible, because Charles he seems like he's alone. I mean, I know he has Carlos, they're buddies, but like Carlos too. I mean, it's like Ferrari has these different camps, and if one camp has a question, they've got to check with every other camp before they can give a definitive answer. And it's depressing, because like in France, they did that with Sainz. They pitted him for the hards, which was just brain dead. But you could chalk it up to, okay, it was a mistake. But then they did it again the next week. And this was after not only Red Bull changing the hards before the race, they couldn't have even noticed that and been like, that's weird. But K-Mag was the first person to pit for the hards, and he was lapping like 5 or 6 seconds slower than the leaders. It's like, I'm on Reddit and I know these things. Like, what the hell? I know.
And then like not to mention Monaco, Silverstone, like,
yeah,
it's insane that it's like as the season goes on, the worse they get. Like, and they've thrown away. Like they've easily thrown away 100 points this year, easily.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you can look at Leclerc's qualifying record and then his actual record. I mean, he hasn't won a race in the last 8 races. He hasn't even got a podium in the last 8 races. He got the one win in Austria, and then it's been 4th, 6th, DNF, 6th. Like
I said, Lewis has more podiums than Charles this year. That is, like, Mercedes everything has to go right so far this year for Mercedes to get a podium. And Lewis has more than Charles, where everything has to go wrong for Ferrari not to get one. Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to go through the entire standing, but Verstappen 258, Leclerc 178. I mean, that says it all right there. Battle for second going in the second half is going to be very interesting. I have a question for you in a moment.
Okay.
But yeah, Red Bull 433. They're basically up by 100 points. It's insane. And like Mercedes is only 30 points back of Ferrari now. They're getting second. Like Ferrari's going to finish third. There's no doubt in my mind. And Lewis Hamilton might finish second overall in the driver's standings. Like Leclerc might not even finish second. It's crazy. But my question is, I think one of my earbuds went out, so hopefully you can still hear me. I'm going to charge this one now. Still good?
Yeah.
Okay. So if this happens, we've already talked this privately, but if this happens again the rest of the year and it continues into next year, what do you think is more likely? Charles leaves for Red Bull at the end of Perez's contract, or Mercedes at the end of Hamilton?
Oh my God. I'm looking up right now. Do we know how long he's so Leclerc's contracted with Ferrari until 2024. So I think
same with Perez, right?
Yes, I believe so. So yeah, it's only next year that's a guarantee, right?
Yeah. So they're basically all three, Perez, Hamilton, and Leclerc. Let's just say all their contracts end at the same time. Let's just say. Do you think it would make sense? Like, what do you think? Because he is a championship capable driver.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's up there with Max. I mean, I think Max, Lewis, and Charles, as far as skill goes, are on very, very similar paths and are on very similar levels. But I think it's extremely unlikely that he will get a seat in one of the two big teams. And I'll tell you why. I think as far as Red Bull goes, let's say Perez, they don't extend his contract. Let's say they don't have any interest in continuing that relationship with them. I don't know if Red Bull would go with Leclerc just because they've always sort of promoted internally and gone with, I feel like they would kind of do what they did with Max and Danny. You know, you've got the legend who's already seasoned and ready, and then they're going to bring in another young gun who Max can maybe mold and who they can have sort of be Max's Bottas baby, maybe. And with Leclerc, they're not going to get that, and I definitely think they know that. Mercedes, I think, is a more likely option. I could totally see, like, let's say Lewis retires. Leclerc to Mercedes is definitely an option, but it's possible Lewis extends. I think, like, I mean, you're the bigger Lewis fan. I don't know what you think, but in my eyes, I think it's more likely that Lewis is going to extend rather than retire, just personally.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. I think it makes sense as a fit, Charles, with Mercedes.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if the timeline will necessarily match up. But yeah, I don't think it makes sense with Red Bull, even though the timeline would match up, just because having two, like, quote-unquote alphas at Red Bull, and then throw in Horner, another alpha, and Helmut Marko, and Adrian Newey, and Jos Verstappen. Although I do like Adrian Newey, but just throwing him in the mix as a bunch of alphas, that would too much butting heads. Like, so I don't see that happening. But it'd be very interesting, unless Lewis at the end of his contract wants to finish up with McLaren or something, which Piastri goes there. That's not going to happen. So I mean, yeah, realistically, Lewis is going to probably do at least 2, 3, 4 more years. So I don't think it's really a distinct possibility. But if it were going to happen, I just don't think Charles. I think the Ferrari luster is kind of wearing off. It's not like it was always like, no matter what a Ferrari offers, you go to Ferrari. And now it's like if I were Max, for example, and Ferrari offers him the bag, even though he's already signed, well, it's hypothetically no chance.
Yeah, fuck no.
No chance. You know, you could ruin your career. Like Vettel's career kind of not died, but went downhill when he went there. Alonso was going up and it stopped. Like, it's just over and over again. So absolute insanity.
It's fascinating. There's a lot of words I could use, but it's fascinating how many top, and I say top, I mean like top level drivers, like the best of the best, Vettel, Alonso, and you're shitting them. Leclerc, Sainz. I mean, they've got amazing drivers, and they have wasted so much talent. And the fact that only Kimi was able to scrape away a drivers' championship in what, 07, 08?
Yeah,
it was 07.
Because McLaren, like messed up. So it was like the opposite.
Unbelievable. I think that's all I have to say on Ferrari, but this season I think is over for Ferrari. I think it's now a Mercedes game of like, it's now like, let's see how much Mercedes can catch up to Red Bull potentially, because I have zero faith in Ferrari. How much faith do I have in Carlos and Charles? I have unlimited faith in those two. Those guys are like some of my favorite drivers. I feel like Sainz, he overcame his bad luck streak and he actually started to put in some like serious results. Charles has been at the top of his game all season. At the start of the season, he was going wheel to wheel with Max in some fucking epic battles, and now it's just like, it's a puddle of sadness.
Even this race, like, Charles had some good moves on Max. He had a great overtake on George. Like, he had some good defending. It's nuts. But yeah, Mercedes is 127 points back of Red Bull for the constructors. So probably over, but I mean, I'd say there's more of a chance of them making it interesting than Ferrari. And the worst thing Ferrari too is like, this is their window. This year is their window, because Mercedes next year is going to be better. There's no chance.
Oh yeah.
Like Mercedes and Red Bull next year are going to be back to what it was last year, I think. So like Ferrari's going to have to get everything perfect going forward to be in that title fight, which seems like Red Bull and Mercedes do on a weekly basis in terms of strategy. But if Ferrari, when they had everything, like, they were dealt a great hand this year, and they're messing that up. So if they're on equal playing fields with Red Bull and Mercedes going forward, like, I don't know. Because, yeah, the driver, Charles, I'd put him right up there with Max. Or maybe like a little bit underneath Max and Lewis, but still, like, he's probably the third best driver on the grid, and they're getting nothing out of it this year. This is going to be a disaster looking back on, like, at some point we're going to go through and calculate all the points they've lost this year.
Oh yeah, we can when we take the break for the 2024 season. That's 100% what we're going to do. It's shocking because it's very, I mean, I feel like this is on a bigger scale, but it's similar to when Vettel and Charles were both fighting for the championship when they had that rocket ship for an engine. And then of course they slapped them with regulations, and the next season it was like a dump truck. So God, yeah, you're right. This was their window. Next year, I think if I'm being honest, I think next year Ferrari's going to be like they were last year, like fighting McLaren and Alpine for third. So it sucks. It sucks so hard. I just want Charles to get a world championship at some point, because I know that's all he wants and it's what he deserves. That kid deserves a fucking championship. So yeah, okay, I'll stop.
Well, I just want to add that another reason we need Charles to win a world championship is that we can't just have Max winning every year for the next 10 years. Like, no. Lewis is eventually going to go away. We need someone to step in and challenge him, because A, for the sport, we want the competition, and B, as a Lewis fan, I like Max a little bit. I still don't really like him, but I don't want him to be passing Lewis's records anytime soon. So let's just give him something to think about, because Max is driving like with so much confidence, and like he clearly knows he's the best driver right now. There's nothing stopping him. Like, even when he made the pass on Charles, like he basically like he didn't push him out of the way, but the confidence in which he like takes the line, knowing like this guy's not going to fuck with me. I can basically do what I want. Like, I don't know. I predicted last week that Charles was going to take out Max, and in hindsight, he probably just should have, because it didn't work. Yeah. I know it was like 10th, started from 3rd, but still. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's got to kind of get his elbows out and do him a Schumacher, because Schumacher was a bit of a dick on the track, but Ferrari's not going to help him out.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I mean, yeah, arguably the greatest of all time, but yeah, Schumacher was an asshole, but you have to be. So, Jesus Christ. Want
to do our new segment?
Yes, let's do it.
All right.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is our new podium segment. So we want to sort of not necessarily divert from F1, but we want the opportunity to talk about other sports or other things, because we talked about we both gave our reviews for the movie Nope that we saw in last week's episode. So just sort of an opportunity for us to branch out and sort of just show our personalities off a little bit more, that's not solely revolved around racing. So yes, take it away.
Yeah, so our new segment is called Podiums. We're going to be doing a draft style, picking our top 3 favorites or best or whatever the case may be. Only real rules are it's going to be back and forth, and we both can't take the same thing. So it's not just 3 of the same, because that would be boring. Then we're going to be putting this out on social, and we want people listening to vote. So we'll have it on Twitter and Instagram to vote to see who wins each week. So our first one that we're going to do, keeping it pretty simple this week, is best sport to watch on TV. Not watching live, best sport to watch on TV. We can have our own little caveats or whatever when we explain. So as the gentleman that I am, I will let you go first.
Quick question. Just so I'm completely caught up on the rules. Am I giving, because we're doing it sort of draft style, so like whatever my first answer is, you can't say. Yeah. Am I giving my top or my third first?
Let's go right from the top. You're number 1.
You're right.
And then I think we should do, even though it's only 2 people, I think we do snake draft. So like you go, then I go, then you go. So there's not really an advantage to going first.
Sure.
So like you go first, but you also go last. Okay.
I'm going to refrain from saying the sport that this podcast is centered around, because
I think it's number 1.
I mean, we could say that. It's no secret that's my favorite sport to watch. So I won't include that just for a little bit of variety.
We're going best, not necessarily favorite.
Best. Okay. I think the best sport to watch on TV is, I was debating number 1. I'm going to say football. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. It's the one sport that, like, I think is almost more enjoyable at home, if that's even possible. Because I have so many memories. Da-da-da-da-da-da, the NFL theme. It's classic. I love football. I'm not like the world's biggest football fan. I'm so shitty when it comes to like player names, but I'm a Saints boy. Who dat nation? I have such weird sport teams' preferences, but but are we? So I guess this is getting too specific, but I guess you could, if I said NFL, you could say college football. But
exactly. Oh, don't you worry. I might be on the list somewhere. So you're taking NFL.
Yes.
And I got to add to that. Yeah. I'm a Bills fan, so Bills Mafia. That's going to be our year. But yeah, we got NFL. NFL is the ultimate. It's like the clear-cut number one choice. I was hoping you weren't going to take it, but it's the clear-cut number one TV sport. Because if you go to the stadium, you don't have that great of a view. It's cool. But you got NFL Red Zone. That's goated. You can't defeat NFL Red Zone. Like, you're just getting all the top plays all day, 7 straight hours, commercial-free football. You got fantasy football. You got your bets. You get to watch your own team. It's only one game per week per team, so it's like you don't get overwhelmed by it. The pace of the game is perfect for TV. You watch for 10 seconds. You have about a 30-second, 40-second break. You get back into it, you watch, and you can break. It's just like everything about football is made for TV. It's perfect, the best, by far the best TV sport. So you got that number one. You know, I had back-to-back picks. So, down here. So 1, NFL, 2. Coming from a Canadian, this is a pretty obvious choice. I had NFL number 1. Number 2, my number 1 pick, NHL. And I'm going to say this with a caveat that if you're just watching a random regular season game, maybe not the best TV sport, but playoff hockey is arguably better than watching football. Playoff hockey is unbelievable. Playoff overtime hockey, there's nothing that beats that. The sudden death, playoff overtime, unbelievable. You get to Stanley Cup Finals, everyone wants to see it's the best trophy in all of sports. You get to bring that out, to carry it, it's the best trophy celebration. So yeah, playoff hockey, but I'll put NHL on the graphic. Go Leafs, go. Probably never going to be our year, but maybe next year we'll get past the first round. Oh, and I got to pick again.
Yes, you do.
NHL. So 3. This is where things are going to start to get interesting. I'm going to go with, tempting to take this one, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave for you. The next line I'm going to take is UFC. UFC. I think UFC has developed into the up-and-coming best. Now, okay, I won't say no spoilers, but yeah, UFC is probably the best up-and-coming TV sport. It's just electric. There's something inside of us as humans. Going back to the times of the Romans and the Greeks, we just love watching people fight. There's just something inherently amazing about it. They put on a great show. They know how to build up their people as characters, and like when there's a good fight, it's unbelievable. There's certain things that are hard to watch sometimes, like when someone gets like knocked out and then they like jump down and do like a hammer punch on them.
Oh my god,
that's hard to watch. Or like there's just crazy blood all gushing all over the place. But hey, it's a great TV sport. The announcers, like, say what you want about Joe Rogan, he's great at announcing UFC. Yes. They have the fighting, like the Michael Buffer, Bruce Buffer, I think it's Michael.
Yeah.
Like, everything's great. Dana White's a character in himself. Yeah, like Conor McGregor, Khabib. The women's fighting is even amazing. Like I watched Amanda Nunes this past weekend. Like UFC, that's pick number 3 overall. UFC.
Son of a bitch. That was my next pick. Yeah, say what you will about Joe Rogan. He's an amazing fight commentator. That moment when Ben Askren got knocked out, like had the world record knockout with that knee.
Masvidal, yeah.
Yeah, the reaction to the Joe Rogan and the commentators was like electric. Like one of the best reactions to a sporting moment, I think, in like the history of sports. It was so epic. But gosh, yeah. So am I giving my second and third now? Is that how that works? Okay.
Yes. I was wrong that you'd have the first and last pick. I have that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you got 2 in a row now. So I think we know what one of them is going to be.
Do we? Oh, for you mean?
No, for you. I think I know what one of your picks is going to be.
Oh shit. Okay. Like, yeah, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not going to go with Formula One.
Oh, well then, never mind.
Yeah, if honest to God, if I was going to pick Formula One, it was going to be number 1. So maybe when we do best sports to watch in person, better watch out.
Okay.
All right. Okay, yeah. Fuck. Number 2. That's so hard. This is gonna throw you off. This is really gonna throw you off. I love watching tennis. I love tennis. Okay. So tennis is my number 2 pick. It's I used to play it all the time with my dad. My dad loves tennis. I used to have a pretty wicked serve, but I That's another sport that I just don't keep track of, but I just really enjoy watching tennis. It's it's kind of funny. Just if someone's watching tennis and you don't know they're watching tennis, you just hear, "Ugh, ugh, ugh, ugh." Yeah, just these really suggestive sounds. But yeah, tennis is gonna get my number 2 pick. And gosh, for number 3, I'm not even necessarily the biggest fan of like this sport, but some of the most enjoyable moments I've ever had watching live sporting events on television is basketball.
Okay.
I do not watch the NBA, but I do watch the NBA finals always. The NBA finals are like it could be the fucking Celtics and the Lakers. I have no stakes in either team, but goddamn it, I'm going to pick one of those teams and I'm going to cheer for them.
Yeah. I think, not to spoil, but if we do best in-person sports, that one's going to be high too. Because I think maybe the best seat in all sports, I've never done it, would be courtside, like middle courtside at an NBA game. Like I don't know how you could really beat that. But so I'm going to go with my final pick of the draft here. And then we'll talk honorable mentions. But I also am not going to take Formula One. So the Formula One podcast does not take Formula One as a top 6 TV sport. I'm going to go with college football. There's just something special about it. Like it's more like the pageantry, and like they get like 100,000, 70,000 to 100,000 fans. The tailgate is huge. Everyone's wearing their team gear. I only got into college football about 3 or 4 years ago, like probably around the same time I got into F1. So good thing I chose this as a podcast, not that. But it just, the more I'm getting into it, it's more fascinating. Like there's like when you look at it from the outside, it's like, okay, it's just always going to be like Alabama or Ohio State or Clemson, or I don't know, maybe there's another team in there, but the craziness of all the matchups and the interconference stuff and the drama that is in that sport too, and just it's great for TV, a lot of high scoring, fun to bet on. I love betting overs on college football games because it's just zip touchdowns, and like the gap between the players is like in the NFL, everyone's an amazing player, so there's going to be like a lot of parity. But in college football, you can have guys that are going to go first round in the NFL and guys that are never going to play another round down of football after they're done here. So there's like huge gaps in the best to the worst. So, and you get some crazy upsets because of that. But that's a great TV sport. So college football is, I'm going to wrap it up. So I have, actually, we'll go you went first. Adrian's draft is number 1, NFL. Number 2, tennis. Number 3, NBA. My draft, number 1, NHL. Number 2, UFC. Number 3, college football. Any honorable mentions that we didn't get to? Obviously, Formula One.
I highly enjoy the Olympics, table tennis.
Okay.
Some of the honorable mentions, just Summer Olympics. I tend to prefer the Winter Olympics. There's maybe 1 or 2 events that I'll watch, but probably I like watching table tennis. Oddly enough, okay. But look, I'm gonna be.
Who's your guy in tennis?
Oh gosh, I don't even have a guy.
Or a favorite? You don't have a favorite, no?
Yeah, I would say probably Andy, but I don't know. I'm not like. Andy? Yes, yeah, like okay. He's the only like person that I remember watch win. So
Americans, not that many great American tennis, at least the men's side. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, no. I like the Williams sisters. But that's.
What about like Nadal, Federer, Djokovic? Of those 3, who do you like?
Yeah,
that's
I like
the GOAT discussion, right?
Yeah, I like Federer for sure, just because like I said, he's the only one I've actually watched play, and who I can I have memory of watching him, play. So I feel like a little bit of a fraud putting that, because I just don't know. I'm so bad with names. But I'll be completely honest. I think your picks are a little more solid, if I'm being real.
I also work in sports TV, so kind of like I should win this one.
Yeah, arguably, yeah. Because if I'm also being honest, I like college football more than NFL.
Yeah.
But college
It's hard because we did best sports, not favorite sports. Because favorite, F1,
right.
We would have both taken F1 first, or
exactly.
I probably would have taken second. Yeah.
And in my opinion, I would much rather watch NFL on TV and college football in person, just personally. Because
I could see that you did the experience.
UGA games,
you're missing too much. Like you're missing way too much if you're watching NFL in stadium. Like I want to go to. Actually, my brother and I were talking about going to Boston this year to see Bills game in New England.
Oh.
So part of the reason is that it's on a Thursday night, so we won't miss like all Sunday's action. You know, you can go to the game Thursday.
Hell yeah.
Because if you go Sunday 1 o'clock, like you'll have a great time tailgating and watching the game stuff, but you're gonna miss out on so much. So
yep.
I gotta figure that one out. That's our podium. We're gonna be back with another one every week, hopefully. Depending on. But yeah, that was fun. One thing I wanted to mention that I had written down: if McLaren signs Piastri, I think we have to get Andy from Outlap back on here because he's a McLaren fan.
We do, absolutely. I would love to just get his.
If Ricciardo doesn't go back, if they change the lineup for next year, we should have Andy on either way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if it's anything but Daniel and Lando for sure. Yeah. I would love to just hear his thoughts on the silly season right now. Honestly, we need to have him back on. Check out the Outlap podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. And also, we need you guys to like and subscribe our podcast, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple or wherever you enjoy your podcast. Trying to ramp up here, so we need all your support. We appreciate it very much.
Yes, we do. We need all the support. We're a growing podcast. We say this every week, but subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Spotify, listen on Apple Podcasts, Harder Soft F1 on all those platforms. Also check us out on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Harder Soft F1. Help us out. Follow us. Watch our content. RJ, is there anything you want to say before we leave these people?
Nope. I'd like to say that the first half recap for me, we will have mid-season awards, which are going to be more on the comedic side. But first half for me started out very disappointing with Mercedes shit in the bed off the bat. I was excited for the Max versus Charles battle. That hasn't really panned out. So now I'm happy with the progress Mercedes has made, despite some of it being how unreliable the other teams have been. But I'm really looking forward to a competitive second half. But really, really looking forward to seeing how all this driver moves drama plays out over the next. Because while we've been recording this podcast, who knows what could have happened? Piastri could have signed. Who knows? All hell could have broken loose. Hamilton could have retired. Who knows? So let's hope we don't get any bombshells right when we check our phones in a few minutes. But that's pretty much all I've got to say. And thanks for everyone for following along with us for the first half of the season. And we're going to we're looking at a couple little things to improve in the second half. We might potentially be getting an intern. I think we are, but don't want to announce anything before it's too early, don't want to announce things too early. So that's what I have to wrap up on. Thanks again, everyone. Adrian, what do you got?
I will say I was very occasionally refreshing the F1 subreddit, and it's all just still talks about Piastri's decisions, and nothing is broke as of now or as of 10 minutes ago. So hopefully, I'm glad we waited a day, though, because if we had recorded this when we were supposed to, we wouldn't have known anything about what was happening this week. So, yeah, thank you all so much for watching or listening, and we will see you guys next week for the start, I guess, of the summer break.